Hello and welcome to Talk Ag to Me, the podcast dedicated to improving ag literacy around the globe. I'm your host, Brennan Black. I'm 18 years old and I attend Tulare Western High School, and I have career goals of becoming an ag teacher. I have with me my two co-hosts, which will now introduce themselves.
Hey guys, my name is Abby Prinz, and I will be 18 in July. I'm currently a senior at Mission Oak High School, and my future career goal is to become a dairy geneticist.
Hello everyone, my name is Evan Garcia. I'm currently 18 years old. I'm a senior at Tulare Union High School, and I plan to become an agricultural lawyer.
So all three of us came from a somewhat agricultural background, some of us more than others, but it's this background, it's our experience in agriculture that prepares us to talk about these types of topics. I know myself, growing up, I was always experienced to various types of agriculture. My father sprayed flies on a dairy, my grandfather worked in a sales yard with cattle, my sister rode horses, so I was always around this type of industry, just I never truly got engaged in it until I joined high school. So Abby, what about you?
I grew up side by side working with my dad in our ag mechanics shop in Pixley, California. We manufacture and design and fabricate dairy equipment and repair dairy and agriculture equipment. And so just having that special relationship and bond with my dad, working side by side with him, and progressively learning more about the dairy and ag mechanics industry really benefited me, especially coming into high school when I joined the FFA program. And I think, Evan, you're pretty involved in the FFA program. You want to talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so first I would like to say that I was born and raised on a dairy and calf ranch. My whole family was involved, my parents, grandparents, and that's just our family business that I grew into. And then I showed dairy cattle through 4-H, which got me started in FFA, which I only thought I was going to show dairy cattle, but then I saw the opportunities FFA had, so I just decided to go with the speaking competitions. I've done opening and closing and extemporaneous public speaking, which is very similar to the stuff we'll be doing here. And I've also been on the chapter officer team for 3 years, sectional officer, and just attended many conferences. So that was pretty much my involvement and the amount of education I've had of agriculture.
Yeah, and I think Evan said it best when he talked about the opportunities that were available to us when we joined the FFA program. I was technically forced to join FFA as a freshman. My parents told me to try just 1 year of it and just to see if I like it, and I really wasn't planning on staying in it. I wanted to actually be a mechanical engineer. I had no interest in cows and, tractors, and that just was not my thing. But after joining the program, after seeing the opportunities that were available to me, I fell in love with it. I, like Evan, am doing extemporaneous public speaking. I've done opening, closing speaking. I've done various judging teams, and I show beef cattle, whereas my co-hosts here both show dairy cattle. But it's these opportunities that have built us into the advocates, if you will, that we are today.
And I think that we'll definitely dive more into the whole FFA topic on another episode, because we can just go on and on about the opportunities and everything we'll be able to discuss later on.
Absolutely.
Definitely, and I highly recommend, and I believe I'm speaking for all of us, is that we definitely all highly recommend that if you have anyone that has any slight interest in agriculture, to definitely find a 4-H club or an FFA chapter and try to get involved that way. And also recommend to those to listen to the podcast and just become more agriculturally literate, as we'll be talking about that later in this episode. But through the FFA program, with all the amazing opportunities and through our backgrounds, we all bring a diverse segment into this podcast, and so you definitely get each of our perspectives on agriculture and how we come together cohesively to promote it together.
Absolutely. So the reason we decided to create this podcast is because we've noticed that one of the largest issues facing the agriculture industry is that there's a large lack of agricultural literacy. People don't know where their food comes from. And that's why it became our goal to help fix this problem.
And not only, Brendan, like you said, where our food comes from, but why we do certain things we do and practice agriculture in these certain ways with public policy, stuff that we will be talking about later in this podcast that affect the future of agriculture.
And ultimately, our goal is to show you guys as listeners how to positively promote agriculture within your daily lives, tell peers, parents, family members, teachers about why agriculture is so important in your community and why it's so important for us to teach you guys this information.
And that's where you guys as listeners come into play with playing your role in agricultural literacy, whether you come from an agriculture background or you don't, and you're listening to this podcast. We just hope you take something away, are able to share it with others in order to promote that global-wide informative public that we are trying to pursue.
And on top of what Evan said, kind of a call to action that we have as a podcast is we ask those of you agriculturally literate and non to pitch us any questions or any ideas or concepts that you want to see us address on this podcast, because our whole purpose here is to teach our consumers or our public about agriculture. So no matter what you know about the industry, everyone has a question of some sort. So please ask us anything that we can address for you, and we'd be happy to look into it. In answering your guys' questions, comments, concerns, whatever, we'll be using 4 main segments on this podcast: ag issues, ag literacy, and our interview types. So with the ag issues types of segments, we'll be addressing different major issues facing the agriculture industry, not just in our home state of California, but all over the country, all over the world. And these issues can range anywhere from urban sprawl to California's drought to the animal rights versus animal welfare, argument to the GMO versus non-GMO argument. So all of these issues, as big as they are, will all revert back to our main purpose, which is promoting agricultural literacy.
And that leads into our second segment that we will be talking about throughout these episodes is agricultural literacy, and it will be more of our teaching segment, teaching you listeners how to respectfully, how to non-condescendingly, and how to openly talk about agricultural literacy to other people, those who do know and don't know ag, and those people in our general public that are just uninformed and need to understand why agriculture is important to everyone in their everyday lives, and how to keep that producer to consumer relationship strong and respected.
And finally, we have our last major segment of being interviews, and those can be broken down into 2 segments. We'll talk to professionals in different industries: beef, dairy, marketing, etc., and as well as our final segment being talking to different FFA members and how they're involved in the FFA organization through leadership positions, competing on judging teams, and promoting agricultural literacy within their chapter and their school.
And Abby, personally, I think I'm really going to like this segment when we have those different professionals and different students come in, because you guys are going to hear us talk sometime, but it's great to get all these different views and perspective from so many different kinds of people that will just share insight on their experiences that they've had throughout their involvement in agriculture.
And you can find all of our segments and our episodes on iTunes and YouTube, and they'll be out every Wednesday, so don't forget to tune in.
And then our episode length is going to vary. We're going to try to keep it at least 20 minutes and up to no longer than 45 minutes. Obviously not this episode, it's just the intro video. We're going to kind of get you guys and ourselves accommodated. But so when the future episodes come out, it'll just depend on the severity of the topics, the professionals and FFA students that we'll be interviewing, and how well we can kind of get our conversations flowing throughout each different podcast.
Right, and just a little bit of an addition to that, as far as the ag issues topics, as far as ag literacy, if there's anything that we happen to kind of talk on for a while, we might preserve certain parts of the discussion. So if we don't cover something you wanted to hear, then don't worry about it, because we'll probably address it in a later episode. We don't want to get in too depth. Like, for example, if we go into GMOs and we start talking about labeling, that's going to be a whole nother episode, because we can talk on forever just about minor significant details in various issues. So we might have an episode covering a broad topic, and we'll split off into minor episodes about that same topic, just in more detail. And with the interviews, for example, if an interview happens to go an hour long, I don't want to take away your guys' ability to hear the whole interview, so I might cut it into a part 1, part 2 kind of system, just so we can make sure that all that content is provided to you guys, but we're not taking up too much time of your listening ability.
But exactly like Brennan said, if we do happen to cut it off and you don't hear something you wanted to hear, don't be afraid to reach out and contact us to ensure that you will hear that, because it could be the case that we won't cover it, or we don't know to cover it in the future. So if you want to hear something, do not be afraid to contact us to make sure that it will be shown here.
And you can contact us through social media or even talking to us in person. And we are on Snapchat, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. So feel free to reach out to any of us. We will be more than welcome to taking any questions or comments based off of the podcast or what you want to hear.
And that's the best way that you guys as listeners can actually help, because social media and technology play a huge role in agriculture. And I am sure that we will be talking about this many different times. I personally think, Brennan and Abby, that we are using technology nowadays to to hide ourselves from conversation when really we can enhance conversation through technology. So as you guys are using your Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, all these social media platforms that Abby had just told you guys, we want you guys to get involved, share us, and we will share your guys' questions and everything as well, and keep you up to date on everything.
I think you're absolutely right, Evan. And kind of another one of the minor, I don't mean to say minor, but a smaller goal to this podcast, besides just educating our consumers about where their food comes from, is we want to build a community here. We want listeners that are all very actively engaged in conversation amongst each others, and just people that want to engage with us and talk to us and ask us questions. And we can even ask you guys questions too about your involvement in ag, what your ag story is, just because that way we can all just relate on this topic at a much larger scale. And I think it'd be really cool if we had a community large enough, where everyone is trying to engage in agricultural literacy.
Yeah, that's a good idea,
Yeah,
Brendan.
definitely.
Maybe we can even do like a call-in video or something. That'd be
cool.
Yes,
That'd be
definitely.
cool. Yeah. So, in any way possible, if you guys can reach out to us, as Abby mentioned, we have the various social media pages, which I definitely will be putting in the descriptions of both the iTunes and YouTube episodes that I'll be posting. You guys can reach us in any of those ways. The Talk Ag to Me specific pages. We also have individual social media accounts if you want to reach us personally for questions.
Definitely.
I'll be implementing those into the descriptions of these episodes as well.
I completely agree, and through this podcast with you guys talking to us will make it more fun for us to talk about amongst ourselves, and as well for you guys, to keep you guys involved, and definitely promoting agriculture in such a positive way that everybody can just enjoy it and be filled with love and that community feel. And I think that's what we all really want out of this podcast.
Absolutely. So we're getting closer to the end of this first introductory episode, and I believe I speak on behalf of all of us when I say this is an exciting new chapter in all of our lives, and I think it's something that we can both, or that all three of us can heavily engage in, and we hope that all of you guys listening engage with us and come along on this journey with us to educate the consumers about the agriculture industry, the industry that we all love.
Definitely.
So we hope to see you guys next Wednesday, and our first episode will be coming out very soon, or I guess this is the first episode, huh?
Yeah.
This is our first episode. This is our first episode, our first official episode where we're talking about our first topic. Will be coming out very soon. So make sure you tune in on iTunes and YouTube, and we'll see you guys later. And don't forget, if you've eaten today, thank a farmer.